Okay, I think it worked. Let me double check. I think we're good now.
Great.
Give me 1 second. Let's just go wait for it to connect here. Yep, I think we are working actually. Great. So you ready to start then?
I am. Let's go.
All right. Welcome to Bon Jovi Discussion. Today I am talking with a woman who does not need any kind of introduction. She's an amazing violinist, a great vocalist, and she has worked with many, many artists, including Bon Jovi, and has her own solo albums. Today I have the one and only talented Lorenza Ponce. How are you doing today, Lorenza?
I'm great, Jerry. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming on.
In these very strange times.
Yeah, and like you said, there's nothing better to do right now, right?
Right. Yeah, I already went into the beehives, and yeah, we have lots of time. So it's a pleasure to speak with you.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to talk with you too. Before we continue, I have your permission to record and upload to YouTube.
Of course.
Okay, great. So the first question I have for you is what and who inspired you to learn the violin, and how did you learn to play?
I was inspired to play the violin because they brought instruments to my school when I was a kid, and it was part of the school program. So they brought all, trumpets and clarinets and all kinds of things, flutes, and there was the violin, and I just fell in love with it. I just looked at it and I said, I want to play that. And I went home to my parents and told them I wanted to play the violin. And they were slightly horrified just because when you start a violin, it sounds really terrible. So, but they said yes. And so I started taking lessons at school, in my elementary school. And I just loved it. I mean, I can still see it. I could still see the very first day I got that violin, and I can still see myself walking into my dad's study and opening the case and letting him see it, and it was all red velvet, and the violin was just so beautiful and shiny.
Do you still have your first violin?
I don't, no. Because at that time it was a rental, and kids still do this. You rent when you first start, because 99% of kids who start instruments don't continue. Yeah. So, don't quote me on that. I don't know if it's 99%, but it's a very high number. It's a very high number.
Sure. It takes some dedication to do it.
Yeah, and that's it. It takes dedication, and to be a musician, it has to be a calling. It has to be the only thing you want to do at that moment in your life, obviously, because the amount of work you have to put in just to get into music school is enormous. And then once you're in music school, then that workload is enormous. And then to have a career in the music business, the workload is enormous and the dedication is enormous. So it isn't a profession that I recommend to just anyone. You have to be extremely dedicated.
Wow. So what was the kind of music then that you would learn when you were first starting to play? Or did you just learn, the basic music scales and notes and learning the theory of music?
Yeah, because I started in public school, so I didn't really I got a private teacher after maybe a few years of playing in just band class is really what it was. Because I grew up in the middle of nowhere, and they didn't really have orchestras. They just had band. So the band teacher taught me the notes on the violin, and then when I got to middle school or junior high, depending on where you're from, what you call it, I started to take private lessons, and as well as play in the band because they didn't have an orchestra. But that's when I started to learn technique, and then when I outgrew that person, when I got to high school, I started studying with someone from the Baltimore Symphony. And that's where I really made progress. because she was a Juilliard graduate. She
Wow.
really knew what she really knew what she was doing. So that's when. So really, my training was very late. All of my training was late. So I feel extremely lucky and fortunate that I've had the career I've had when I really didn't learn to play correctly till later later. A lot of kids start when they're 5 and they start with incredible teachers and this and that, but I didn't have that. But what I had though was the love and the drive, and I knew even when I was a kid that I was going to be a rock violinist. I knew it. Don't ask me how. I loved rock and roll, and I loved the violin, and I just knew I was going to put the two together.
When you were, learning to play and stuff, and you said you wanted to be like a rock violinist, do you think there was a lot of songs out there at the time that there was a lot of violin in?
No, not at all. There was the only ones I knew of. Now there were other people, they were jazz groups, but I didn't know about them because I was too young. So the only band I knew that had a violin was Kansas.
Wow.
And so, of course, I learned all the Kansas songs, and all my friends thought I was really good because I could play the Kansas songs. But that's all I knew. So there really wasn't a path for me. So I went to conservatory in New York, music school, full-on music school.
Oh,
wow. And and that was good for me and not good for me. I realized that I needed more than just music. I wanted some academics and, other things.
Oh,
so,
right.
But one thing it did do was it drove me once I was out of school. I jumped right into the club scene, and it really drove me to do rock and roll because I knew that's what I wanted. So, so it just made me know that I did not want to be a classical violin player.
Wow. So then my question becomes then, define successful, but how did you know you became successful as a professional violinist? Like, when did you realize that this is it? This is your life. This is what you're going to do for the rest of your life.
Well, what happened is I became successful very quickly, and I was in the clubs. So basically, I had to make a living, so I bartended for 3 years, and in that time, I was playing in rock bands, and I was playing with everyone I could play with, and wow. I got some big breaks. I met a girl who is still one of my dearest friends, whose manager was also this new age artist, Taro, who was this really famous guy in the 80s and 90s, and basically, and he's still well known in Japan and in certain circles, but back then he was really well known, and wow. And he was a new age keyboard player, so he always had a violinist with him. So I got an audition for him, and I got the gig. So that was my first tour. But prior to that, I had started. Okay, I went with my friend to a Kitaro concert, and John Anderson from Yes was singing with Kitaro at the show.
Wow, that is cool.
And I went to the party afterwards with my friend, and we met John, and we ended up talking. I ended up talking to John for quite a while, and told him I was a violinist and all this. So he was intrigued. So he, sometime later, a few months, he was back in New York, and he was making a record, and he asked me to come in, asked me if I wanted to play. And I went in and I played on the record, and he was blown away. And he said, you should be a solo artist. And so I said, okay, I'll do that. And so I got together with a friend of mine, and we started to write music. And I swear to God, it clicked, and it turns out I was good at it, and I didn't know that. And I ended up getting signed to Angel EMI Records after about a year,
Wow.
of doing this. So I got signed to a major label deal, and I got my first tour, all in 1 year. And that
Wow.
went. So that that was a success. I was making money, and I was going to make a record. And that's when I said, okay, well, this is obviously what I'm supposed to be doing because it happened.
That's amazing. I have, I think it's called Mystic Fiddler. I have.
That's my second record, right? The one I did for Angel EMI is called Imago.
Oh, that was your first one. Okay.
Yes, Imago is the first record.
Well, the Mystic Fiddler album is really good. I bought that I think a few years ago, and that's a great album. I loved it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So how did playing with John Bon Jovi happen? Like, when did that all first? How did it happen and all that?
Okay, so that was very specifically. John was looking for a violinist who could sing for this event called A Tribute to Heroes, and it was after 9/11.
Wow.
So 9/11 happened, and obviously everything stopped, kind of like right now, but that was just specific to New York, although no one could fly anywhere in the country. So I guess it was a countrywide event. So he wanted someone who could play and sing. So a friend of mine called me up and said, you want to do this thing? I said, sure. And so it was Living on a Prayer. And I went down to the studio because it was basically live to like 1 billion people the first time I ever played with John and Richie. It was John, Richie, and Everett.
Wow.
And there was no rehearsal. And I basically walked in.
Really? No rehearsals?
No, we just ran through it once.
Oh, my gosh.
For the camera and for the sound, and then we did it. And now I know that that's the way John does things. At the time, I just thought, oh, my God, really? We're not going to rehearse this thing? But now, and John always thought that was really, it's funny, because I'm someone who likes to rehearse.
Yeah.
He rehearses more now. There was a time when he did not rehearse. Forget about it. You would not rehearse. Now
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that the perfectionist that I respect that, the perfectionist that he is, and he always likes things to be perfect. You'd think that he would rehearse. So I find that interesting that they didn't rehearse for that.
Right, exactly. Me too. It was so scary. Yeah. So basically we just ran through it, and then we did it for 1 billion people, and it turned out it was one of those musical relationships that worked with us. Like, I was a fit for them, for that band, because I naturally played the notes he wanted to hear, and I sang the harmonies he wanted, and because like I said, I just started singing, and I just started playing whatever it was, and it worked. So after that, I did a lot more benefit concerts with them. And
wow.
And then that was it. That was the beginning. He would hire me for corporate stuff with the band, and whenever that was appropriate. Whenever it was for a fancy dinner or something, and he wanted just to bring out the violin for a song, then we would do that. Or if it was a TV show. So I started working with him. So when the tour came along for Lost Highway, it was a very natural choice for him to call me for that, because I'd already worked with them for 6 years already.
And you recorded on the album too, right?
I did not. No.
Oh,
that was done in Nashville, and
okay.
that was I don't even know who did that. It might be Stewart. I can't remember his last name, but there's a really amazing fiddler guy down there that they usually would use for that.
Okay. Yeah, I always wondered if you played on the album, but I'm surprised you didn't. But so anyway, as you were saying with the Lost Highway tour.
Right. Right. So that was just natural. So that's why they asked me to do it, because I've been working with them for so long already.
So, and obviously you guys rehearsed a lot for that before the tour. Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
So obviously you had to learn like the whole discography, from their albums from '84 up into 2007. So how difficult was it to learn how to play some of those other songs? I don't know if I think you did a lot more backing vocals on other songs that didn't really need a violin in. Correct?
Yeah, so there were some songs that they didn't need vocal or violin on. And there were some songs that John wanted to add the violin, just because he likes the violin. And then there were songs that had string lines, so they were naturally, we would add violin for that. And then, of course, from the Lost Highway songs, they already had fiddle, and there were vocals on it. So there was a lot of material. It was very difficult. It was so much work, and
wow.
It was trial and error. Some stuff. Look, music is not an exact science, ever. And so we had a list of songs that we thought the violin would work on, and then we rehearsed it, and then we would perform it, and then we would decide whether it worked or not. So, some songs we kept me on, and sometimes some songs we didn't, and some songs we added me to later. So, that's the thing about music. It's always changing. It's a living, breathing phenomenon.
Sure is.
So that's what's so great about it. And that's what's great about working with John is he's open to trying things, and he's fine with changing some stuff.
So what was it like then to be like on stage every night with the whole band? First, and you're always just playing with John. Like, what was it like to work with Tico and David and Richie and all them, Bobby?
Well, I'd already known Bob. I had already worked with Bobby, but it was great. I love them. They are really fun. The thing about a band like Bon Jovi, it's like a band like Bon Jovi, U2, these really, really high-end, there's a few of them. You can count them on one or two hands, these bands that are this big and have been around for this long. So the level of performance that is expected is different from anything else I had done.
Okay.
I'd already toured with Sheryl Crow, the Dixie Chicks, Hall & Oates. So I'd done a lot of touring and performing with artists already. And these artists were amazing to tour with. I loved every minute of it. Cheryl is an incredible musician.
She really is.
The Dixie Chicks tour was incredible. But this Bon Jovi is a rock band, and it's a whole other thing. So I had to kind of I became one of the boys, is what it was. You have to be one of the boys. They don't want to hear any whining, and you just have to know your stuff, go out there and play, do your job, and have a cocktail with everybody afterwards. You know what I mean? Hang out.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
That's good. So then how did the whole, JBJ, because that was after the Lost Highway tour, obviously. How did the whole JBJ and KOS form? When did that happen?
Well, I think it gradually happened. I think that what happened is Bobby had put a band together for John for something, and I wasn't in that. I think it started as like a corporate thing, or like a fan show or something like that. And then I think John had such a good time that I think it was around 2013, he wanted to really start a band of, that kind of band. Because we'd always had an acoustic group. That I'd been working, so that's why I knew Bobby. I've been doing stuff with Bobby and Jeff Z with John, even before the Lost Highway tour. So Bobby and I had played together a lot. Because you do know, Bob, how John has two groups. He has the acoustic group and then he has the Kings of Suburbia.
Right.
So the acoustic group had been around as long as I had known John, had been working with him. So, but then he loved this big band thing. He with the horns and just the cover tunes and let's have fun. So that was, I think, started around 2013. And he wanted to add the violin because he wanted to do Who Says and Lost Highway, and he wanted to do all these songs. And then we were able to, and plus I was singing background vocals, and so that's really when the Kings of Suburbia proper started.
Wow.
Back then.
And to be honest with you, I love those shows. I've seen quite a few KOS shows, and I was on the cruise too. And it's just, as a massive Bon Jovi fan, it's so cool to kind of see John in a different atmosphere, and a different, more like an intimate setting, like the Q&As and the acoustic set. It's cool to see you guys do covers and then do some Bon Jovi hits. It's like a whole new rendition of those songs. So it's interesting,
And he loved it, and he's so much more relaxed with the KOS and the acoustic thing, because I think that Bon Jovi band. I'm not speaking for him in any way, shape, or form, but right. I think it's more pressure because there are more people he's responsible for. To be the right. CEO of his company it's a lot of pressure.
There's
a lot of people
on his shoulders.
Yeah, a lot of people counting on you. And the KOS is fun because it's a one-off or two. You do one or two shows and then we all just go away. And so when we come back to play again, it's just like, woo, let's play a show, and we'll rehearse and then we'll go do the show. So it's really, really fun. Really fun.
Yeah, and speaking of, fun, I went on the Caribbean cruise, and I remember I would watch you guys both days practice and rehearse. And obviously John wasn't there to rehearse with you guys, but you guys came on stage with your equipment, and you guys would test things out. And you guys were working hard on just rehearsing. And then, like I said a little bit ago, both those shows were just amazing. I loved seeing the acoustic set the first night. Then the second night, that show was just incredible, and watching you play that violin, I mean, you rocked it. What was your experience like for the cruise?
What was what?
What was your experience like for the cruise?
My gosh, I loved it. We loved it. And Jerry, let me tell you something. That is saying something, because I was so not into doing this cruise. I had never done a cruise. No, I had never done a cruise. Oh, my gosh. Right. I'd always been afraid to do a cruise. And I didn't want to do it. And, of course, we ended up doing it. And I take it all back. And I told everybody, I said, oh, my God, I take it all back. I'm so sorry. It was absolutely fantastic. The Bahamas thing, we loved every minute of it. I couldn't wait to get to Spain. We loved every minute of that. And I wish John would do another one. I mean, in a couple of years, obviously, after this whole Corona nonsense is over with. But, I mean, I don't know if he will or not, but I would love it if he would, because it was just so fun. We all loved it. We all just loved it.
Yeah, like you said, I hope John will do it one day too, because, myself and other diehard fans, it was just great to be able to finally have a Bon Jovi themed cruise with other diehard fans, and seeing those KOS shows, and it was great.
I had a talk with the captain on one of the cruises. I think it might have been the Bahamas. And he was telling me that the Bon Jovi fans were the best people that they had on the cruise ship, that they were so well behaved and that everyone was so nice, and it was obvious everyone was just having a good time, and they were all like, it was like hive mind, everyone was just like, we're here for Bon Jovi, yay, it's all about love, so yeah, he loved it. He loved having everybody on.
Wow, that is great. And, another thing I didn't realize too until recently was I didn't know you did the string arrangement for this goes off topic for the cruise, obviously. I didn't know that you did the string arrangement for Blind Love on the Burning Bridges album.
I did, and I also did the string arrangement for Real Love on This House. This House Is Not for Sale?
Yeah.
Is that the record? Yeah. Yeah.
I just learned that today too.
Yes. Yeah, John, the way John does that is he just emails me. That's how he does things. He just emails you and says, "Here's a track. I need a string arrangement."
Wow.
Okay. And you just write back, go, okay. And then it takes me a week or whatever, and then I'll send him a version, and then he makes his comments, and then I fix it, and then he says, love it, and then I recorded it for him. So that was all me on the records too, playing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, see, I just learned, just recently that you did Blind Love, and I just learned 2 seconds ago that you did Real Love, which are both good songs. I personally prefer Blind Love a little more, but how long did it take you to do the string arrangement on those songs?
Well, I would say a week of writing it, and then he had me do some changes on both, and then the changes took, a day. And then once I got the okay on it, I recorded it, and that took 2 days to record because I have to do multiple tracks of violin and viola.
Wow.
And then I would hire a cellist to come in.
Okay, so it wasn't like a huge long process. It was maybe like a couple weeks.
Correct.
Nice. Wow. So before we get to Saving the Bees discussion, which I think is a very important topic to talk about, what is your favorite song to play with John as far as a Bon Jovi song and a cover?
Oh, my gosh, and a cover.
Yeah, one that you just look forward to every night playing.
Well, I mean, if I didn't say the Bob O'Reilly solo, I'd be a liar. But I love doing that. But as far as what other cover do I love? Oh, gosh, I love a lot of them. I love The Letter. Oh, I love I'm Your Man. I think he does I'm Your Man so well. I love, what's the U2 song? Yay, yay.
Oh, I know. I can't name it either. I know which one you're talking about, though.
What's wrong with me?
It'll come to me after this phone conversation, too.
Yes, I know. When Love Comes to Town. When Love Comes to Town.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah. I love doing that. I love doing that song. I love because Leon and John and all three of us are up front, and it's really, really fun. So I love doing that song. As far as his songs, you're going to laugh. But my favorite song to sing or play with him is Every Word Was a Piece of My Heart.
Oh, my God.
I know. Do you love that song?
I love that you just said that because the Destination Anywhere album is just incredible. I was kind of thinking you were going to say Living on Prayer or something like that's a hit, but I am so happy that you said Every Word Was a Piece of My Heart. That's an incredible song. It's
an incredible song, and it's so much fun to sing and play. And he rarely does it. I have to beg him to do it when we do it. And he still says no most of the time. So I know. So yeah, that's my favorite song to perform.
Wow. Yeah, I was kind of crossing my fingers too on the cruise last year to see him, or for you guys to do something off the Destination album, and it didn't happen. But I was kind of hoping for every word. So I'm kind of really happy that you said that, because that's kind of a song that kind of gets forgotten about. That's a great song.
Yeah.
But my favorite song that you guys cover though on stage would be Old Time Rock and Roll. I just love it, especially like when Leon she comes and sings with John. I love that. Then the whole the trumpet players and all, they come up front and do a jam.
It's hysterical. I know. I
Yeah.
love it too. It's so funny when they all are out there, and yeah, it's great. Great.
And one of the reasons why I do love that so much is because, like I was saying a little bit ago, it's during those shows, that's when John is so relaxed and just having fun. And that song right there proves that he's just there having fun. And it's cool to see that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's so much fun. Look, those shows are a blast. I miss playing so much. I miss playing so much with people, with them. That's been the hardest thing for me. I mean, look, we have no problems. We are safe. We are well. We are home. So we can't complain at all. But I do really, really miss my peeps, playing with people.
Yeah, and hopefully, that the time comes that, shows are happening again. And it's a scary time in the world right now. And, I mean, there's articles saying that, concerts aren't going to happen until at least next year. And, as well, that it should be to keep people safe. It's also a shame that we have to wait that long for shows and entertainment. And
I know. I don't even know what to think about that. I'm just taking it one day at a time and hoping that that is not the case.
I hope it's not the case either. A lot of bands are just canceling their summer and fall plans now. So it's, but I noticed on your social media that you're a huge advocate on saving bees, which I think is incredible. And I hate to sound dumb here, but you've brought a lot of awareness to me regarding bees, and I never knew how vital and essential bees were to our planet, let alone amazing creatures. And I was doing a lot of research today, and I didn't even realize that a single bee can pollinate like 300 million flowers a day, which I think is incredible. What got you into the whole bee thing?
My father had bees, and so I never took care of the bees, or really had. I don't really even have an awareness of the bees much when I was growing up. But I do know that honey appeared, buckets of honey would appear every summer, miraculously in the kitchen. And
I love honey.
Yeah, and I just couldn't believe it when I was a kid. We'd bake fresh bread and then we would put fresh honey on it. So my father, fell in 2014 and couldn't take care of anything on the farm. So the sisters, three of us had to take over the farm duties. And he had one hive. And because bees, really, you only need to check on them every couple of weeks, I'm the one that did the bees. Because of my life, there was no way I could be here, very much, because I was always traveling and doing this and that. So I took a bee class just so I would have some kind of idea what in the heck, because I had no idea what to do. Zero.
You were going in blind pretty much.
Totally. And the very beginning of the class, they showed a video about honeybees, and I was hooked in 30 seconds. I was just like you. You think you were ignorant about bees. I was really ignorant about bees. I just didn't know anything about them. And I was hooked. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how beautiful they are, because they showed this video of like really up close, like some really high-tech videos. You could see them flying. You could see everything about them when they were collecting the pollen and everything. And I was hooked. And then it just turned out that I'm good at it. I took a couple more classes. I took a class at Rutgers University, and I took an online class from the University of Pennsylvania that they have. And then I just jumped in. We bought another hive. Then I would have 2 hives, and I started doing it. And I was not good at it, obviously. I didn't know what I was doing. And then I found this mentor of this really incredible guy, this old guy. He's still my mentor, and he is the one that changed my beekeeping. He showed me how to do it. He showed me what to look for. He showed me how to read the frames when you pull the frames out of the hive. And that's when I started to become a beekeeper. And 5 years later, here I am. My mentor can't come here and help because we're social distancing, and he's older, and he has to be very careful.
Yeah.
So I am doing it all by myself for the first time. Yeah.
I don't know how full of protective gear that you wear, but don't you get stung quite often? Or
No. Well, actually, yeah, you do. Yes, even with the bee suit. So I wear a bee suit and I wear gloves. I didn't always wear gloves because, and you know what, when you start, I don't think you should wear gloves, because what happens is when you use your bare hands, you learn how to move really, really slowly in the hive, because bees don't want to sting you, because when they sting you, they die. So it's not like a wasp or a hornet or something. They can sting you multiple times and they live.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
But yes.
I thought they all died.
No, they don't.
Okay.
Honeybees die. So when I started learning, I didn't wear any gloves. And so I learned how to move really slowly so not to upset the bees. But, as time goes on, you can't help it. Sometimes you'll put your hand in there and you'll just touch a bee and it gets scared and it stings you. So I had to start wearing gloves because it's hard to play violin when you've got these things on your hands,
Oh.
But sometimes I'll still get stung through the suit, depending on what I'm doing. If I'm doing like a really have to go in the hive and do some kind of like a swarm manipulation, like what I'm doing right now, I've been stung twice through the gloves and through the suit because of doing these extreme manipulations of the hive.
Wow.
And that's just natural,
Yeah.
It just is what it is.
They can, I don't know how thick your gloves and your suit is, but they can really go through your whole suit like that with their stinger?
Yes. Now, I have like a high-tech suit. It has several layers, and it there's different types of suit, but mine is pretty high-tech. So it really is hard for them to sting through a suit. It is hard. And the gloves, I have leather gloves, and it's hard for them to sting through that. But if they really try, and if it's just your fingers in just the right spot, they can get you.
Wow. Another thing that I think is really important, and this is what brought me awareness of the bees. Last week or so, you posted a photo of a dandelion, and you were talking about how vital they were as food for bees due to the pollen. And you were mentioning about not putting weed killer on lawns because of the pesticides and herbicides, which are killers to the honeybees. And I'm glad you said that, because every year I get my lawn sprayed with pesticides and herbicides. And this was the year that I decided, I'm not going to do that, because it made me research a lot more. And pesticides is a huge killer to these bees. Yes.
Yes. And thank you, Jerry. Thank you so much for not spraying your yard this year. And this is what, I swear to God, I feel like it's a calling. I'm the last person on the planet that should have been a beekeeper. Seriously, and I don't even like to get dirty. You know what I mean? But now I've become like this girl that will go out there and like be in a suit and sweat and like, do the bee thing and schlep boxes and get sticky from all the honey and, but I think it's a calling, just like the violin was. This is some kind of calling that I was supposed to learn this and tell people and bring awareness to this, how important these insects and pollinators are to us. And that people don't understand. They don't know that you shouldn't be putting Roundup. Most of these lawn groomers that you have come over put Roundup and stuff on your lawn to make it beautiful, quote unquote, and they kill everything. And that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem with colony collapse of the honeybee is because they don't have anywhere to go. Everywhere is poison. And it's very much the same feeling. Like, I can relate to these bees now. We have a silent killer out there that's killing everyone in the world called the coronavirus. And it's trying to kill us. And it's a silent killer. This is exactly what's happening to the bees and pollinators, is the things we're doing to the planet are silently killing these bees because they don't know. They go to these flowers and they don't know they've been sprayed. And
it ends up killing them.
And they take all this poison back to the hive.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, and like I just said a little bit ago, I didn't even realize that a single bee colony, pollinates up to 300 million flowers. I mean, that's a lot of flowers.
Yes.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
So
I think it's 1 in every 3 bites of food we take is pollinated by pollinators. We need pollinators,
right,
to eat.
And another thing too, that since I was doing a lot more research and stuff, is that how important it is to support your local beekeepers. I started buying honey from local beekeepers, and they even do soaps and candles. I didn't even know that.
Yes.
Shows you how ignorant I was.
Well, it's okay. I mean, you only know what you know. So, if I was able to open your eyes to go to your farmer's market and buy some honey, and then you also see that they make all this other cool stuff. Hurrah!
Yeah.
I've touched one life. Woo!
Yeah, I couldn't believe it because it was a decent sized store, and I've always passed it. I'm like, what the hell do they sell in these stores that as a beekeeper? And I walked in and they have jars and jars of honey, and it's the best honey I've ever tasted. And they had soaps and lotions and all that. And it's vital to support these local beekeepers because that money helps to support what they do. And
that's right. And I sell my honey. I'm sure you've noticed online. I sell my honey, and people that sells out every year, and people are so supportive to buy it because that every bit of that money goes into a bank account that's for the bees.
Right.
And that's what we use that money for. Is we buy equipment like boxes. You have to buy frames, foundation. It buys organic seed to plant things like, if you saw any of my videos, you saw that we planted rapeseed last year. We plant buckwheat. These are all clover. These are all things that you have to plant to help the bees sustain themselves. So that's all part of it. Is
wow.
Raising healthy bees. And so when people buy that honey that I sell, that's where that money goes. And it's just incredible. It's so important. It means so much to me that people do support that.
I did not know that you sold your own honey, so I am actually going to go buy some. Where, for people that are listening right now, where could we go to buy it? You said on your website?
Well, actually, I'm working on a new website, which isn't up yet.
Okay.
And that will have, my old website, which is still up, doesn't have a link to honey. But what I do is I usually post on Facebook when it's for sale. And I take orders, and it's a first come, first serve thing. And it happens at the end of June, beginning of July is when I do it. And it usually sells out very quickly. And I just take, I write down everyone's name and, send them an invoice and whatever. That's usually how I do it. Now, with this new website, we're going to be able to have people just order from it online. And that way, yeah. But that doesn't happen till the honey season is over. So that's around June that's when I know how much I got and how much I have to sell.
Okay.
But our honey, Jerry, my honey has done very well. I mean, I've won blue ribbons several times at the state level in Maryland for the best honey.
Well, as soon as you have some for sale, I'm going to buy a bulk order, and I'm going to try it.
Oh, you know what? One other thing I wanted to say. Well, thank you for that. One other thing I wanted to say is that, people can plant bee-friendly stuff in their yards, and it's really beautiful stuff. Like you could plant peonies, you can plant lavender. If you've never had a lavender bush, you cannot believe how beautiful a lavender bush is. You could plant marigolds, black-eyed Susans, sage. A sage plant is gorgeous, and bees love it. You can plant chives and thyme and oregano. So there are so many wonderful bee-friendly, pollinator-friendly plants that you can plant around your yard that will bring color, and you'll just love hearing all these like bumblebees and honeybees and all these. It makes your yard so alive and beautiful.
And another thing too to add to that is I was watching a video about this person who they create their own bee baths. They put like a bunch of stones in water for these bees to kind of sit on top of these little stones, so they're able to drink water.
Yes, we have them here too, and that's exactly right. You take like a bird bath, or you take like some sort of a pan, ceramic or something, and you can put marbles in it. You can put stones in it. You can even put corks, like wine bottle corks. You can float them in it, and you just keep it filled with water, and then the bees have something they can stand on, because they'll drown pretty easily. So you have to have stuff they can stand on, and that's great, because then they don't have to go far. Or if they're tired, they can stop and get a drink of water and then move on to get home. Wow,
that's interesting. And like I said too, when you get your honey up and running and stuff, I'm going to pay attention to your Facebook, and I'm definitely going to buy a bulk order.
Thank you.
Was there anything? Was there anything else you wanted to say about bees? Because, like I said, I think it's very important, and I'm kind of glad you brought some awareness to it, because I never realized how important this is.
No, I think that we covered the important topics. The main thing is don't put that stuff on your yard.
Yeah.
Don't. Tell your friends. Tell your friends.
I have. I've told my colleagues, my friends, like I said, this is the first year that I have never put any kind of pesticides or herbicides on our lawn. I was just telling my fiance that the other day. I was kind of educating her about it too, and it's right. The stuff kills the bees. So,
they have little signs that you can buy that because I know some people live in neighborhoods where it's, kind of stuffy and everyone's expected to have the perfect this and the perfect that. We need to have a new paradigm of what is considered beautiful. Instead of a perfectly flat green lawn, a lawn of dandelions and wild, young wildflowers is the most beautiful thing you can have. But they have these signs you can buy, like this is a bee-friendly yard, or this is a pollinator-friendly yard. If you stick that in there, everyone will understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. And then there's no way they can possibly say anything to you, otherwise they'll be a big jerk.
Well, I'm gonna like you were saying a little bit ago, I'm gonna plant some black-eyed Susans and some sage and stuff that's healthy for these bees and other insects.
Yes. And lavender. Get some lavender.
Lavender.
Love
yeah.
the lavender.
Lavender. Well, Lorenza, I really sincerely thank you for coming on today and talking about everything, and it was truly great and really an honor to be able to sit here and chat with you. And I
so great to talk to you, Jerry.
And I hope you and your family stay safe, and I hope to see you somewhere on a stage soon.
Yes, definitely. You stay safe and stay positive.
All right, thank you, Lorenza. I appreciate it.
Okay, take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.